Pam Hupp has lived a life of crime. She started out forging signatures at her insurance job and moved on to murder. Pam has been convicted of murdering Louis Gumpenberger on August 16, 2016. She is suspected of killing her mother, Shirley Neumann, on October 13, 2013, and she has now finally been charged with the murder of Betsy Faria, who was stabbed to death on December 27, 2011. Pam's murder spree has ended for good. Lucky for the people in her life. Hey everybody, and welcome to True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. I'm Christy Brower, here with my sister, co-host, and partner in crime, Katie Weaver. Hey Katie.
Hello.
How's it going?
It is going well. I'm excited for this case. It's a wild one.
Oh my gosh. You might have heard in my intro that it was a lucky thing that her murder spree has ended so that the people around her can quit dying.
Right? She's a real, I don't know, Lori Vallow.
Yeah, she's a real something. That is for sure.
Minus the golden stuff. I don't think she's got that, but
I don't think she does. No, yeah. I don't. So you probably all know the story of Pam Hupp because you've heard it a lot because she's been in and out of the news for many years now because she just can't stop killing people. But back in July, we got some great news that she was finally charged with the murder of Betsy Faria, which was actually her first murder and the one that kicked off this whole crazy story. So we haven't covered Pam Hupp fully before. So
her first murder that we know of, anyway.
Well, okay, you've got a point there, and that was a question that I have had for a long time about her. Did she really only kill these 3 people? Because yikes.
So yikes on bikes, as they say.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Pam. So Pam grew up in Delwood, Missouri, which is a suburb of St. Louis. She was born on October 10th of 1958. And, she just she grew up a very, kind of a very standard Midwestern Catholic, like her life was not all that unusual. Grew up with parents that, had to work and support her family and stuff, but I can't find any history that was abusive or anything for Pam.
Yeah.
Just that, she got pregnant right after her prom.
Yeah.
And so she didn't go to college. She had a daughter instead. And one thing about Pam is she was always a real penny pincher, real frugal. And that was just something that people kind of always noticed about her, kind of to an extreme degree. And so she worked for a couple of different insurance companies in which she finally was fired from those jobs for forging signatures.
Yeah.
So Pam was already sort of committing crimes even then. But then she made a really big leap. And this, we don't know exactly why she went from forging stuff, forging documents to murder.
Well, money.
But yeah, I mean, it was money. So she has this friend. Her friend's name is Betsy. Betsy was well known as just being, some descriptions of her were that she was a typical Midwestern woman, big-haired, bubbly, scatterbrained, and sweet.
Oh.
Yeah. They hadn't been friends for a while, kind of lost touch. But then Betsy developed breast cancer. This was in 2010.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Pam was just right there by her side.
Mm-hmm.
Appeared to be being a super good friend, really helping her out,
Yeah.
being there for her, taking her to treatments and stuff.
Yeah.
And she had confided in Pam at some point that she was worried about her life insurance policy. And she was worried that her two daughters and her husband would just kind of spend it up and not make it last.
Mm-hmm.
And she had this $150,000 life insurance policy. So this is so unreal. Right before Christmas in 2011, December 23rd, she convinced Betsy to change the beneficiary on her life insurance policy to herself. So
Yes.
Pam would be the beneficiary, and then she was going to help, put the money in a trust to make sure that her daughters got it when they needed it, and blah blah blah, like all this
Yeah.
super, like the super friend kind of things.
Mm-hmm. What a good friend. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and
Someone
we're talking
who's
about life
married,
insurance here,
who signs their life insurance policy over to someone who's not their spouse.
right?
That is really big.
Yikes.
Yeah.
It is. It's and this is a person who's dying of cancer. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you gotta kind of question this. So they went to
Mm-hmm.
the library to have like a notary,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to remember that Pam worked in insurance
Mm-hmm.
prior to this, so she kind of knew what she was doing. So they get the life insurance traded over into her name, and so then just a couple of days after Christmas, so this was December 27th of 2011, Pam's super insistent. She's going to help Betsy. She's going to take her to treatment. She's going to give her a ride home. She's going to do all this stuff because her husband, Betsy's husband, Russ, had a game night that was kind of a regular, like weekly thing with
Mm-hmm.
his friends. And so Pam's like, oh, hey, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. I'll take her. Right. So when that night, this is December 27th,
Mm-hmm.
2011, when Russ gets home, he discovers that Betsy is laying on the floor dead, has been stabbed 55 times.
Yeah.
Now, he said some weird stuff
Right.
because he said she killed herself,
Right.
which was super dumb.
Right. Well, that's what he said to
Obviously,
dispatch. Yeah.
yeah,
He calls 911. He says, I just got home and my wife has killed herself. And he's just pretty inconsolable. Yeah.
yeah.
But it just, yeah. It was weird that he said that, but he also seemed like he was seriously in shock. And
She still
I
had the knife
wondered,
sticking out of her neck.
yeah.
Like, why would you assume that's a suicide?
I,
When there's she had 55 stab wounds, you guys.
yeah.
That was a weird thing.
It was weird. Yeah.
And, we've talked about this before, and lots of other true crimers talk about it too, that you think you know what you're going to do in a situation like that, but you don't actually know what you're going to do. So you might say some dumb stuff that makes you look guilty, but you didn't really do anything,
Mm-hmm.
So the police immediately look at Russ. They're like, oh, this is an open and shut case. He's lying about it,
Mm-hmm.
and they had kept him up. He was up for 36 hours. He'd had marijuana in his system, and he was given a polygraph.
Mm-hmm.
And surprise, surprise, he failed the polygraph. I mean,
Yeah.
Let's just get real about this for a minute. Like, why would they ever think that would be accurate?
Right. Right.
Doesn't that
Of
seem
course
strange?
not.
Like, it seems like they really wanted this to be Russ because it would just
Mm-hmm.
be easy, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. I feel like they, from the get go, from the weird 911 call on, that was it. Had to have been him. Yeah.
Yeah. So they decide that, oh, his friends are lying. He wasn't really hanging out with them. And, this was
Mhm.
totally, well, and then, of course, best friend Pam appears
Yeah,
with some information for the police.
of course.
And she tells them that Russ had a violent temper and that Betsy was afraid of her.
Of course.
And, the the and how they didn't look at that life insurance policy and immediately go, "Whoa, hold the phone."
Yeah.
But they didn't. So they put Russ Faria on trial for Betsy's murder.
Yeah.
And so his defense attorney keeps trying to bring in the fact that Pam has now changed her story several times. She
Yeah.
herself did not have an alibi. There's all this proof of where Russ was because after he went to game night with his friends, he actually stopped at several different places where he
Yeah.
was seen on security cameras and stuff. Like, he had
Which,
actually a really solid alibi.
but they also thought that was weird. Everything he did seemed suspicious, at least in the eyes of the prosecutor. He stopped at one store and got a Snapple. He stopped at a different store and got cigarettes. Like, he wasn't doing things that, maybe logically made sense, but it didn't make him
Right.
guilty. But yes, that
No,
he did have an alibi all over the place.
he did. He did. Um, Also, his clothes and shoes didn't have any blood on them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there were those weird slippers that did have blood on them that were in his
Mm-hmm.
closet,
Right.
which seems like a setup to me from the beginning.
Right.
So, I don't know. So, they basically just kept the prosecutor just kept objecting to anything whenever they tried to throw some doubt on this by shining some light on Pam. They just kept shutting that down.
Yeah.
Pam was the last person to see Betsy alive.
Yeah.
She was never tested for blood, her clothes, or her car, nothing.
Yeah.
She got a doctor's note that said she couldn't do a polygraph, which
Yeah.
eventually she said she had memory issues that were either
Right.
from head injuries or menopause.
She couldn't remember. There was a
Yeah.
lot of not being able to remember,
Yes, which was really
or
weird.
very general answers, that
Yeah.
that didn't give them anywhere else to go. Yeah.
Yeah. So all of this led up to Russ was convicted
Mm-hmm.
and sent to prison for
Yeah.
Betsy's murder. And so then there was a civil trial with Betsy's daughters, like trying to sue for the insurance money and like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Now, there were two insurance policies. So Russ got $100,000
Mm-hmm.
and then Pam got the $150,000. But what happened is during the civil trial, Betsy's daughters were suing her, and she admitted that she had revoked the trust that she had set up for them with the money. So, in other words, she just took off with the money.
Yeah.
And that actually was enough for Russ to get a new trial. So they tried this again, and they didn't call Pam in on this case.
Mm-hmm.
He was finally acquitted, fortunately,
Yeah.
but he did do 2 or 3 years in prison.
Yeah.
In the interim.
For murdering his wife.
Yeah.
Which he did not do.
He did not do.
The emotional distress of having your wife being murdered and stabbed 55 times.
Right.
Is one thing, but also to be wrongfully convicted of her murder.
No.
This poor guy.
Awful. Well, and so in the interim, while he's off, in prison, Pam's real busy.
Oh,
Pam's
yes.
mom dies. Pam's mom, Shirley,
Yeah.
who Pam was telling people that her mother had just died of Alzheimer's. She didn't die of Alzheimer's. So she was living in an assisted living, and she lived on the third floor
Mm-hmm.
of her assisted living. She had a little apartment. And one morning she was found on the ground under her balcony, and she had 8 times her regular Ambien dose in her system.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And the railing on her balcony was broken, and the fall crushed her chest and killed her.
Oh my God.
And guess who gets her money?
Of course.
Good old Pam, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so apparently, Pam had been telling people that her mother had millions of dollars and that she was going to get it all when she died.
But of course.
You know what, though? She didn't have millions of dollars. She had insurance for her burial,
Mm-hmm.
and she had about $120,000 in investments.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if Pam thought she was getting more money than this, or if she just could not. She had to she revoked that trust. She had to give that money back. She was in big trouble over the insurance. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
now, because in the midst of all of this, also, she had sought disability for various injuries to her back and neck and was no longer working,
Mm-hmm.
mostly because she just kept getting fired for forgery.
Mm-hmm.
And so then she's magically had disability.
Of
So,
course.
just using people wherever possible.
Mm-hmm.
So then comes the new trial, of course, and Russ is exonerated, and he one of the crazy things that came out is that Pam just kept changing her story to try
Mm-hmm.
to fit the situation better for herself.
Sure.
At one point, she even said that she and Betsy were having a lesbian affair,
Oh yeah.
and that Russ knew about it, and that he'd threatened Pam.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Betsy changed the life insurance policy and gave Russ motive to kill Betsy and to kill Pam. Right. Okay. So this was all a bunch of bullshit. And Russ is acquitted.
Yeah.
So then poor Louis Gumpenberger is drug into this. And this poor guy, who had literally nothing to do with any of this until he got murdered,
Right.
unfortunately. So Pam was getting nervous that she was going to get charged with Betsy's
Yeah.
death. And especially because Ross Faria had filed a civil suit against the prosecutor and detectives who investigated Betsy's death. And
Mm-hmm.
so the U.S. Attorney's Office was looking into it. Like, it was getting to be a bigger thing.
Yeah.
Now, there had been several episodes about Pam and about these murders already that had aired on Dateline. So Betsy, because she's ever the problem solver,
Mm-hmm.
starts approaching people and telling them that she is a producer from Dateline and that she's offering them $1,000 to do a reenactment for them. And she's just showing up to random people's houses.
Oh my God.
And offering this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, unfortunately, Louis Gumpenberger, who was 33 years old, and he'd been in a car accident where he had a head injury and like physical disabilities because of this. On August 26th of 2016, Pam goes up to Louis Gumpenberger and offers him $1,000. Remember this dollar amount because this is important.
Yeah.
offers him $1,000 to do a reenactment. And he says, okay.
Yeah.
So he goes to her house to do this reenactment.
Mm-hmm.
And so she keeps calling 911. And so they actually, 911, they actually record what happened. They hear shots fired. And then Pam gets on the phone and says that Louis came out of nowhere to attack her with a knife and demand Russ's money. So she shot him. This is what she tells 911. When they find him, shot and killed, he has $900 in consecutive serial number bills on him.
Yeah.
And then he also has a note. And the note says to kill Pam, but first he has to take her to the bank to get Russ's money. Right? And so they know that the money was consecutive in bills. Well, what they did is they found another $100 in her house. So there was $1,000. You know, the $1,000 she said she was going to pay him to do the reenactment.
Yeah.
So the note had told Louis to leave the cash that he got from her behind this wood pile at Russ Faria's house. So we're still dragging poor Russ Faria into this, right? And
so yeah, she just could not stand the fact that he got turned loose and that he was, going to be somewhat okay.
Right. And that what he had to say might actually put her in jail. Yeah. So it turns out they check a neighbor's security camera to see if Pam has been by his house, to put the money where it's supposed to be or whatever. Well, guess what? Yes, it had. So her very ridiculous plan that sucked in a completely innocent person fails.
Yeah.
And so she's arrested. So after she's arrested, she asks to go to the bathroom, and they send her to the bathroom without any supervision.
Yeah.
And so she has a ballpoint pen on her that she's nicked from somewhere. And she tries this. She's so pathetic. In every way. She tried to kill herself, okay? And you know how she did it? By stabbing herself in the neck with a ballpoint pen.
Yeah.
And stabbing herself in the arms, like trying to bleed to death, I guess. The picture of her in her booking photo looks like she has giant maxi pads stuck to the side of her neck. And you'll see, if you're watching the video of this, you'll see it in the intro. But I had to use that picture of her because this just sums up who we're dealing with. But yeah, that was her attempt at killing herself, which super unsuccessful there.
Yeah.
So she does in 2019. She takes an Alford plea because again, she's never going to admit anything.
No.
So an Alford plea means that she recognizes there's enough evidence to convict her, but she's not going to admit guilt.
Yep.
So this is a first-degree murder trial because, of course, it is. Oh my God, what she did to that poor guy.
Right.
That Louis Gumpenberger. That's just so sad.
Right. Oh, it's awful. His poor family.
Right.
It's just so heartbroken and devastated and astonished that something like this could happen.
Yeah. Just awful.
Yeah.
So anyway, she avoided the death penalty on his murder by taking an Alford plea.
Right.
So, meanwhile, unfortunately, so as far as her mother's death is concerned, the only thing that's happened with that is a coroner has changed her death from accidental to undetermined. Because, they'd like to look into her for that, but they've been too busy, in trying her for all this other stuff. So she's sitting in prison, life in prison.
Yeah.
And at this point, they decide that they're going to reopen Betsy Faria's murder because,
Yeah. Because of course they should.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, poor Russ Faria did not kill his wife, as we know. So one of the things that they determined is that because there were tracks, like somebody walking in blood all over in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And those tracks matched Betsy's socks, the socks she'd been wearing. And it was one of the reasons that they thought maybe this was like a domestic violence incident. They've now determined that Pam actually dipped those socks in Betsy's blood and then put them on and tracked them around the house.
Oh my God.
Isn't that the grossest thing ever?
Yeah. Well, and obviously got blood on the slippers too and shoved them in the closet.
Yeah, I did that on purpose to implicate Russ, but it didn't make sense.
No.
Like, why the slippers when he's wearing his shoes? I don't know.
Yeah.
So in July of 2021, she was charged with first-degree murder and armed criminal action in Betsy's death. So she has not been to trial on Betsy yet. But, I mean, let's get real here.
Yeah.
Obviously, she killed Betsy for her insurance money, tried to set up Russ. When that didn't work and she had to give the money back, then she killed her mother for her millions, which turned out to be nowhere near that. Then, when she thought she was going to get busted, she just involved poor Louis Gumpenberger, who had zero to do with her or anything to do with this case, and killed him to try to make it look like Russ was trying to have her killed. And is now in prison on an Alfred plea and is also being charged with Betsy's murder.
Yeah.
So, as I said, it is a relief for anyone in her life and basically just the community at large that she's in prison, because she clearly has the ability to kill anybody if she really wants to and they're in her way.
Yeah, killed her. But, supposedly killed her mother. I'm going yes on that. Killed her supposedly best friend.
Yeah.
Killed an innocent, handicapped sweetheart of a guy.
Cancer, and she killed her. Right, and this poor guy that he just thought he was
going to make a little money.
Bucks. I mean, what the hell? There aren't a lot of female psychopaths. But the ones that there are super bad, and they wreak havoc on the people in their own lives. Male psychopaths tend to kill strangers. Female psychopaths kill people close to them.
Yeah.
Pretty clear that's what we have going on here. What do you think about Pam? Because there's not a lot. I mean, I've read kind of pretty much the same blurb about her history and growing up on a bunch of different articles and websites and stuff. I can't find anything very deep about her.
Yeah, it's pretty much all the same.
It is.
Everywhere.
And so here's a question I have for you. Do you think she was born a psychopath?
Yeah.
Because I don't really see any making of a psychopath in her life.
Right. No, I think she's a born psychopath. I think when she was a kid, she covered it better, or at least, was just modeling the behaviors of people around her that were, well, not psychopaths,
Right, yeah.
I think that as she got older and more exposed to media, and I'd be really curious to see her search history, right? I mean, which says nothing, because when you're a true crimer, you've searched every terrible thing under the sun.
Right.
But honestly, it seems to me like she's living out some kind of drama, made for TV drama here. That
it's like, it is. It's like a bad B movie. Because she was a terrible criminal, but she got away with a lot. She was, one of the things I read is that she was very calm and cool and collected when meeting with the police and very believable. and, just very rational and like they didn't suspect her.
Yeah. But clearly, under the cover of everything, she had a serious entitlement to whatever she wanted.
Other
Most
people's money,
especially
that's for
money.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it's good news for everyone that she's in prison and now
hmm
being charged with first-degree murder yet again, so she will never see the light of day. Thank
Yeah.
heavens, but I always find, female psychopaths very interesting because there
hmm
aren't very many,
Yeah.
and so it's interesting to look at their stories, be like, "Where did this come from for her?" You know?
Yeah.
And it probably came from birth, unfortunately, in this
Yeah.
case. Yikes. Okay. Well, that's Pam Hupp, you guys. We'll keep an eye out on what's happening with her. She's gonna go to trial here soon, probably not until next year, I would imagine
Oh,
at
I'm
this point.
sure. Yeah.
There's no rush in doing her trial because she's in prison now, but we'll
Yeah.
keep an eye on what happens with that trial because I'm sure for Russ Faria, for Betsy Faria's daughters, and anyone else involved in this situation, people want to see her pay
hmm
for Betsy's murder because
hmm
it seems like she pretty much deserves to, doesn't it?
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
much. Ugh, what a mess.
Right? It's quite a story. Yikes.
Yeah. But poor Betsy's daughters. I
Oh
have a
my
lot of
gosh.
compassion for Russ too, but for Betsy, or for Betsy's daughters, my God, what a
Their
thing for
mother
them to go
basically
through.
disinherits them and then gets murdered.
Yeah.
So they have no opportunity to talk to her about like what the hell is going on here.
Yeah. Yeah. All of it. It's unthinkable. But anyway, that is what it is now.
Well, it is. It is. Well, this is our Tuesday case.
Yeah.
And we will be back tomorrow with another case as well as our um, Wednesday night live stream at 7 p.m. Mountain,
Yeah.
which is our case update, and then Thursday night with the psychic hour. And Katie has a very special guest. She also has a special guest on the update because I'm going to
Yeah.
be gone. I'm going on vacation. Woo!
Yeah. Yeah. Tomorrow
So,
night on Wednesday night case update, my daughter Mars is going to join us to do case updates. She's a little excited, a little nervous. She's going to be great.
yeah,
And then, of course, we'll have Thursday night on the Psychic Hour, we have Nurse Hadley from TikTok.
yeah,
So if you guys are TikTokers, go find Nurse Hadley. She's a hospice nurse and she has some amazing stories about death and dying and the other side and the connections that she's been able to make and the lessons she's learned. And honestly, she's just perfect for a Psychic Hour show. And I'm so excited that she's going to join me. So
yeah.
definitely come hang out. It'll be a great time.
Very
And that, of
cool.
course, is 7 p.m. Mountain Time on Thursday. And that's a live stream from
Yeah,
YouTube and from Facebook.
yeah. So, keep an eye out all week. We have lots of great things coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And you know it, we are True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. Thanks for being here.